The day my Uncle Joe died in a car accident, everything changed. It felt like the world suddenly stopped for me. I could barely process it. I was just a teenager, but the shock hit me hard. But what hit me harder than the loss was the way my cousin, Emily, reacted. She was devastated. Her whole world fell apart. And somehow, everything was about her now. Emily was my cousin, but now she was more like a stranger to me. She came to live at my house because she couldn't handle the emotional fallout. She claimed she needed a place to heal. I thought, fine, let her stay for a while. I can deal with it. But she quickly became obsessed with my boyfriend, Mark. She would cry, throw tantrums, and just couldn't handle seeing us together. And everyone, even my own parents, said, "Why don't you just let Emily have him? She's been through so much." How is that fair to me? Mark, the person I thought I could rely on, started to act like a puppet in Emily's hands. Every time she cried, he was there, holding her and comforting her, while I was left behind. It made me sick to my stomach. I confronted him one day and he said, "Emily's going through so much. You need to understand." Are you kidding me? So, now I'm supposed to step aside and watch as she steals everything from me? Everything got worse when I had my own car accident. I was in so much pain, barely holding on to consciousness, but the thing that stung more than the physical pain was that Emily was right there, holding on to Mark, crying as if her world was ending. And I was in the hospital, ignored, alone, and completely forgotten. When I was in surgery, I saw Emily cry and say to Mark, "If she dies, there will be so many people who will care. If I die, no one will care." When I opened my eyes again, everything was different. I was back to the day Emily first came to live with us. It was like a cruel replay, and it hit me like a slap in the face. How dare you take everything from me? I thought to myself as I looked at Emily, who was now already starting to make her move on Mark. The anger boiled inside me. I wanted to scream, but I kept my cool. For now. Later that day, I saw Emily standing next to Mark, flashing that pathetic fake smile of hers, and it made me want to tear my hair out. I walked over, and without any warning, I pushed her away. She stumbled backward and hit the wall. Her hand scraped against the rough surface, and blood started to trickle down. But instead of feeling sorry, she just sat there crying, making it all about her again. I wasn't going to let her do this again. "If you keep this up, I swear I'll make sure you regret it," I hissed, making it clear I wasn't afraid to fight back this time. Through the chaos, I could hear Mark's voice calling out to me. "Don't be like this. She's not well." I snapped, my voice dripping with sarcasm. "Oh, so now you care about her well-being, huh? What about me, Mark? What about what I'm going through?" I couldn't take it anymore. I turned away, storming off, leaving him there with Emily. I didn't care what they thought. I was done. I wasn't going to let them both destroy everything I had worked for. Emily's presence in my house was supposed to be temporary, but it felt like she had taken over everything. I tried to be understanding, but she started taking things too far. Every time Mark came over, she would act like a total wreck. She would either cry or guilt trip him into comforting her. It was pathetic. One evening, I overheard her sobbing to him, "Mark, I don't know what I would do without you. You're the only one who understands me." I was standing right there and I couldn't believe my ears. Was I invisible to them? Mark didn't even look at me as I stood there, my heart sinking. "Don't you think you're crossing the line?" I snapped, my voice trembling with anger. "You know I'm your girlfriend, right?" But of course, Mark just brushed it off. "Hannah, calm down. She's been through a lot, all right? Can't you see she's just trying to cope?" It was like a slap in the face. I wanted to scream at him, to shake him and make him realize what he was doing. But no, I just stood there, feeling like the outsider in my own relationship. It didn't take long for me to figure out that Emily wasn't just grieving over Uncle Joe. No, it was much more than that. She was pretending to be fragile to get sympathy. She kept pulling this "I'm so broken" act on everyone, including my parents. And everyone ate it up. Every time she cried, everyone rushed to her side. I couldn't take it anymore. One day, I overheard her telling my mom, I don't know how much longer I can keep going. I'm just so lost without him. Her voice was dripping with fake emotion, and my blood was boiling. I couldn't hold back. I stormed into the room and glared at her. Cut the crap, Emily. I spat, watching her face drop. You're not broken. You're just using this as an excuse to get attention. Her eyes widened in shock. What's wrong with you? I'm just trying to get through this, and you're making it worse. I couldn't believe her audacity. No, you're making it worse for all of us, making everything about you. You're a user, Emily, and I've had enough. The situation only got worse when I realized Mark was slowly drifting away from me. Every time I tried to talk to him, he would get defensive and make excuses for Emily. I was furious. How could he be so blind? He used to be so thoughtful, but now he was nothing more than a puppet in Emily's hands. Mark, why are you always with her? I asked one night, my voice trembling with anger. Why can't you see what she's doing? She's manipulating you. He looked at me like I was the crazy one. Hannah, she's my friend. She's been through so much. You can't expect me to just ignore her when she's hurting. I couldn't take it anymore. You've been ignoring me, Mark. You're choosing her over me, and I'm done. He tried to hold my hand, but I pulled away. No, don't even touch me. You've made your choice. You want to be with her, then go ahead. But don't expect me to wait around while you fall for her lies. The day I got into my accident was the day everything fell apart. I don't remember much, but I remember the pain and the desperation. When I woke up, I was in the hospital, and the first thing I saw was Emily, crying in Mark's arms. I felt like I was suffocating. Was I not even worth their attention? As I laid there, barely able to move, I heard her whisper to Mark, if she dies, everyone will mourn her. But if I die, no one will even care. No one will even notice I'm gone. I wanted to scream, to tell her she was lying, but I was too weak. I just lay there, feeling invisible. No one cared. No one cared if I lived or died, but they were all over Emily, comforting her as if she were the only one in pain. Then, when I opened my eyes again, I found myself back to the day Emily moved in with us. It was like nothing had changed. I had to relive it all over again. And this time, I wasn't going to let her win. I watched her, pretending to be fragile and innocent, as she worked her way into Mark's life. I could see the same thing happening all over again. Mark, completely oblivious, was playing right into her hands. I couldn't let that happen. I wasn't going to let her destroy everything I had left. That evening, as Emily stood next to Mark, throwing that fake smile of hers, I had had enough. I stormed up to her, glaring at her with all the hatred I had been holding in for months. Emily, I've had enough of you, I said through gritted teeth. You're not going to take everything from me. I'm done with you, and I'm done with Mark. She looked at me, a mixture of confusion and anger flashing in her eyes. You don't get it, do you? You never will. I'm the one who needs him, not you. I'm the one who's been through hell, and you, before she could finish, I pushed her away, hard. She stumbled back, falling against the wall, her face contorted with surprise. You've been lying to everyone, Emily. You're not broken. You're just selfish, I spat, feeling my heart race with fury. Mark rushed over to her, but I was done. I turned my back and walked away, not caring if he followed. I wasn't going to let them both ruin my life again. I was stronger than that. The more I watched Emily play the victim, the more disgusted I became. She had this perfect act, pretending to be fragile and helpless, but the truth was clear to anyone who had eyes to see. She wasn't broken. She was manipulative. But of course, no one wanted to believe me. They all saw her as the poor, grieving cousin who had lost her father. Meanwhile, I was the bad guy for not sympathizing. I overheard her talking to my mom one night, her voice all shaky and fake. I just don't know how to move on without him, Mom. It's like my whole world is crashing down. I can't even breathe sometimes. I rolled my eyes. Seriously? She was laying it on thick. I couldn't hold it in any longer. I barged into the room, glaring at her. Stop lying, Emily. You're not heartbroken. You're just using this to get sympathy. Her face went white, and she stammered. "What? I'm just trying to get through this, okay? Why are you being like this?" I threw my hands up. "Because you're a damn liar. All you do is manipulate everyone around you, and now you're trying to take Mark away from me too." Mark, the person I had trusted, was nothing but a coward. He couldn't see through Emily's lies, and worse, he was enabling her. Every time I tried to call him out, he just ignored me. "You need to stop attacking her, Hannah," he said one day, his voice laced with frustration. "She's been through so much. Why can't you just leave her alone?" I almost couldn't believe it. Leave her alone? She's the one who's been causing all this mess. She's the one making everything about her, and you're standing here defending her. Mark sighed, running his hand through his hair. "You don't get it, do you? She's struggling. You should be more understanding." I laughed bitterly. Understanding? How about understanding that you're choosing her over me? I'm the one who's been here for you, but you're too blind to see it. I couldn't hold back anymore. "You've made your choice, Mark. It's her, not me. Don't even come near me anymore. We're done." As if things weren't bad enough, Emily's emotional manipulation started to escalate. She wasn't just playing the grieving cousin. She was trying to control everything, including Mark. I saw her whispering in his ear one day, her voice soft and full of false vulnerability. "Mark, I don't know what I would do if you weren't here. You're the only one who truly cares about me." I couldn't believe my ears. This was getting out of hand. I marched over, fuming. "What the hell is this, Emily? You really think you can just have him because you're sad?" Emily smirked, her eyes narrowing. "Oh, please, Hannah. Mark understands me. He gets me. You never will." Mark looked at me with that same pitiful look, his eyes apologetic. "Hannah, please, she's going through a lot right now. Just let it go." I was livid. "Let it go?" "No, I'm not letting it go, Mark. This isn't just about you and her. This is about me, my feelings, and you've completely disregarded them." I turned away, disgusted. "I don't care anymore. You two can have each other. I'm done." Things only spiraled further out of control when I got into a car accident. I was rushed to the hospital, but when I woke up, all I could see was Emily crying in Mark's arms. They were both holding each other, like I didn't even matter. It felt like a punch to the gut. But the worst part? Emily's words, whispered through her fake tears. "If she dies, everyone will mourn her. But if I die, no one will even care. No one will remember me." I couldn't even respond. I was so weak, and the pain in my chest wasn't just from the accident. It was from the betrayal. Mark was holding her, comforting her, as though I wasn't lying there fighting for my life. When I was in surgery, I could only hear the faint sound of her crying, but not a single person was there for me. Not my parents, not Mark, no one. It was like I was invisible, and it hurt more than any injury ever could. When I finally woke up again, I couldn't believe my eyes. I was back before the accident, before all of this chaos. The feeling of déjà vu hit me like a freight train. I had a second chance to make things right, to stop Emily from ruining everything again. I saw her the same way as before, sitting with Mark, acting like she was the one who needed him the most. I was disgusted by her lies and manipulation. This time, I wasn't going to let her get away with it. I took a deep breath, my anger building inside me. It was time to put an end to all of this. I wasn't going to be a doormat anymore. That night, Emily was once again all over Mark. I had enough. I walked straight up to them, furious. "This ends now, Emily. I'm not going to let you take everything from me anymore." She looked at me with that same smug expression, her eyes full of arrogance. "You think you can stop me, Hannah? You don't get it. Mark is the one who truly understands me, not you." Mark, of course, defended her. "Hannah, why are you acting like this? She's been through a lot. Can't you just see that?" I glared at him. "No, Mark. I can see perfectly. I see that you're blind, and I'm done being the one who has to fight for your attention." I looked at Emily, my voice dripping with disdain. "You're not taking him, Emily. Not anymore. I'll make sure of it." With that, I turned and walked away, my heart pounding in my chest. I wasn't going to let them destroy me again. This time I was going to fight back. I thought things couldn't get worse, but Emily just kept pushing every boundary. She had this twisted way of turning everything into her personal drama. Mark was still feeding into her lies, letting her manipulate him like she was the only one who mattered. I was getting so tired of it all. Every day, I had to watch them together. Emily playing the helpless little girl and Mark acting like her knight in shining armor. One evening, I overheard Emily talking to Mark. Her voice was low, almost seductive, as she said, "Mark, you're all I have left now. I don't know what I'd do without you." It made me want to scream. Are you kidding me? I stormed into the room, looking at them both in disbelief. You've got to be joking. How many times are you going to play the poor me act? Emily looked at me, all innocent, like I was the crazy one. What's your problem, Hannah? I'm just telling Mark how much I appreciate him. Mark didn't even bother to defend me. Hannah, calm down. She's been through a lot, okay? Just let it go. Let it go? I could feel my blood boiling. Let it go?
She's playing you, Mark.
She's been using you from the start. Can't you see that? Or are you too blind to care? Emily's emotional manipulation wasn't just annoying, it was suffocating. She cried at the drop of a hat, acting like her entire life had ended. It was like she wanted to convince everyone that she was fragile and needed constant attention. But it wasn't just a phase, this was her game, and I was done being a pawn. One day, I found her sitting on the couch, sobbing into a tissue. My mom was standing next to her, comforting her like she was the only person in the world who mattered. I just feel so lost, Mom, Emily said, choking back fake tears. Everything feels so dark without him. I can't even breathe. I couldn't take it anymore. Seriously, Emily? I asked, walking into the room with fury in my eyes. You're not the only one who's lost someone. Stop pretending to be the victim all the time. She blinked, surprised by my outburst. What are you talking about? I'm just going through a hard time. I crossed my arms. Yeah, well, we all are. But you're making it worse for everyone else by acting like you're the only one who matters. You're not. So stop with the act, okay? It was bad enough that Mark didn't seem to care about my feelings, but now he was actively choosing Emily over me. I had tried to be patient, I really had, but he was too far gone. I couldn't watch him fall for her manipulation anymore. I walked into the living room one evening, only to see Mark comforting Emily after yet another breakdown. I was furious. Mark, I said through gritted teeth, trying to keep my calm, are you seriously going to let her use you like this? Again? He sighed, clearly frustrated with me. Hannah, I told you, she's been through so much. You need to understand. Understand? I couldn't believe my ears. No, Mark. I'm not going to understand. I'm done being the second option. I'm done watching you choose her every damn time. Mark looked hurt, but I didn't care anymore. Maybe this is a wake-up call for you, Mark. Maybe you need to realize who's been there for you all this time, and who's just playing games. I walked away, feeling a mix of sadness and anger. I was done trying to fix everything. If he couldn't see the truth, then it wasn't my problem anymore. Emily wasn't done yet. She was desperate to keep control over Mark, and I was in her way. She started doing things on purpose to push my buttons, like showing up when Mark and I were supposed to hang out, and then pretending to need him right at that moment. It was sickening. One day, she called Mark while we were at a cafe, whispering like she was about to break down. Mark, I don't know what to do. I'm just so alone, and I feel like I'm losing everything. I could hear her clearly, and I wasn't having it. I turned to Mark, furious. You're seriously going to drop everything for her again? Mark looked at me, his face full of guilt. Hannah, she needs me right now. She's going through something. I threw my hands up in frustration. I need you too, Mark. I've been here the whole time. But no, you're too busy playing hero to someone who doesn't even deserve your attention. Emily, of course, took that moment to enter the conversation. Oh, I'm sorry, Hannah. I didn't mean to interrupt your precious time with Mark. But maybe if you weren't so selfish, you could understand that I need him more right now. I shot her a cold look. Don't even try it, Emily. You're not fooling anyone. You're just scared of losing control. The final straw came when I got into a car accident. I had no idea what happened. It all felt like a blur. But what I did know was that when I woke up in the hospital, it was the last place I wanted to be. I could barely move, and yet, there was Emily, clinging to Mark, crying like she was the one who'd been in the accident. And that's when I heard her. If I die, no one will care. But if she dies, everyone will mourn her. I'll be alone forever. I could barely hold back the tears. Why does she get all the attention? Why is it always about her? I thought to myself. Mark was holding her, comforting her, while I lay there completely ignored. It was like I didn't matter anymore. No one even checked on me. It was all about Emily. When I woke up again, it was like I had been given a second chance. A chance to fix things. I was back to the day Emily first moved in with us. And this time, I wasn't going to let her win. I knew what I had to do. I couldn't let her ruin my life again. This time, I was going to fight back. And this time, I wasn't going to let Mark or anyone else stand in my way. I knew I couldn't trust Emily for a second, but now the truth was finally starting to unravel. It wasn't just about her manipulation anymore. It was about everything. She had lied about everything, and I was done pretending that I didn't see it. One evening, I overheard Emily on the phone, and it was clear she was orchestrating yet another dramatic scene for Mark. "I can't take it anymore, Mark," she sobbed, putting on her best performance. "Everything feels like it's falling apart. I'm so lost without you. I just need you to hold me." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I stormed into the room and threw my hands up in disgust. "Really, Emily? Is this how low you've sunk? Do you seriously expect Mark to fall for this garbage every time?" Emily looked at me with wide, fake eyes. "What's your problem, Hannah? I'm just being honest about how I feel. I thought you would understand." "Understand?" I yelled. "How could I ever understand you? You're nothing but a liar who thrives on pity. It's pathetic." Mark, of course, just stood there doing nothing. "Hannah, calm down. You know Emily's been through a lot. Why are you attacking her like this?" I couldn't believe it.
Why?
"Because she's a manipulative liar. She's been using both of us, and you're too blind to see it." It was like I was living in some twisted soap opera with Emily pulling the strings and everyone else just going along with it. Every time Mark and I had a moment together, Emily would find a way to insert herself.
And Mark?
He just let it happen, like he couldn't care less about what I felt. One night, after Emily had yet another emotional breakdown, I couldn't take it anymore. I confronted her. "You're just using him, Emily. You're not going through anything that you haven't brought upon yourself. Stop acting like the victim." Emily's eyes filled with fake tears. "I didn't ask for any of this, Hannah. I'm not asking for sympathy. I'm just trying to get through this nightmare. Why do you have to make it worse?" "Worse?" I snapped. "You're the one making everything worse. You're trying to take Mark from me, and you think I'm just going to sit here and watch you destroy everything." Mark, as usual, had no idea what was going on. "Hannah, please calm down. Emily needs me right now. She's really struggling." "You don't get it, do you?" I said, my voice thick with bitterness. "She's been playing both of us this whole time. She's the one who's been stirring up all this chaos, and now you're making excuses for her." I could feel it, the slow but inevitable betrayal. Mark wasn't just ignoring my feelings. He was actively choosing Emily over me, over and over again. He didn't even try to hide it anymore. One afternoon, Mark and I were supposed to meet up, but he called and told me he was too busy to hang out. I could hear Emily's voice faintly in the background. I clenched my fists. "Really, Mark? You're blowing me off for her again?" I asked, trying to stay calm. "What is it that you don't get?" "She's not your responsibility." "I am." "I'm not blowing you off, Hannah," he said, sounding defensive. "She's really struggling, and I can't just leave her alone right now." I could feel my anger building. "She's not struggling. She's playing you, Mark. Can't you see that? You're just letting her walk all over you while I'm standing here, being ignored." There was a long silence before he replied, "I don't know what you want from me, Hannah. She's family." "Family?" I almost laughed bitterly. "You're choosing her over me, and you think it's okay because she's family?" You've lost it, Mark. You're not the person I thought you were. By now, Emily had taken her manipulation to the next level. It was no longer just about getting attention. She was actively trying to destroy my relationship with Mark. Every time we were supposed to have some time alone, she would call, pretend to be in crisis, and demand Mark's attention. It was ridiculous. One day, I caught her trying to get Mark to comfort her while we were having lunch together. "Mark, I can't do this alone," Emily cried. "Please, I just need you to help me get through this." I stood up and walked over to them. "Unbelievable, Emily. You really think it's okay to manipulate people like this? What's wrong with you?" She looked up at me with a wicked smile. "I'm just trying to survive, Hannah. Maybe you should try to understand." Mark, of course, just looked uncomfortable. "Hannah, you don't know what she's been through." I wanted to scream.
No, Mark.
"What you don't understand is that she's not just struggling. She's using both of us to get what she wants, and you're too blind to see it." Emily smirked at me, clearly enjoying every second of my frustration. "If you don't like it, then maybe you should just leave, Hannah. You're the one causing all this drama." "You're insane," I snapped. "You're the one causing the chaos, and I'm done with it. I'm done with both of you." The final straw came when I was in the hospital after a serious car accident. When I woke up, I could see Emily sitting next to Mark, holding onto him like he was the only thing keeping her alive. The sight of it almost made me sick. Mark looked at me and then at Emily, clearly torn between the two of us. "Hannah, I don't know what to do." I could barely move, but I whispered, "I don't want your pity, Mark. You've made your choice." Emily, with her usual dramatic flair, sniffled and said, "If I die, no one will care. But if she dies, there will be 1,000,000 people mourning her. I'll be alone, and no one will even notice I'm gone." The words stung, but the look on her face was even worse. It was like she thought she could guilt-trip Mark into loving her. It was at that moment that everything clicked. I didn't care about her pity anymore. I didn't care about Mark or any of this. I had been so wrapped up in their drama, in their lies, that I had forgotten who I was. This was the moment I realized that I had to let go. I wasn't going to spend my life fighting for someone who couldn't see the truth. Emily had already won. She had Mark, and I wasn't going to waste any more time on him. "I'm done," I whispered, closing my eyes. "I'm done with all of you." It wasn't enough that Emily had manipulated everyone around her. Now she was trying to destroy everything I had left. I wasn't going to let it happen. She had Mark wrapped around her little finger, and I had finally had enough of watching her get away with it. She wasn't the innocent little cousin she claimed to be. She was a liar and a manipulator, and it was time for everyone to see it. One night, I overheard Emily and Mark talking in the living room. Her voice was dripping with fake sorrow. "Mark, I just don't know how I'm going to keep going. Everything's falling apart, and I'm so alone." I couldn't stop myself from storming in. "Oh, here we go again. Another round of Emily's pity party. Are you seriously going to fall for this, Mark? Again?" Emily looked at me with her best hurt face. "Why do you always have to be like this, Hannah? I'm just telling Mark how I feel." Mark looked up at me, his face tired. "Hannah, I get it. But you don't understand how much she's been through. She's struggling." I couldn't believe it. "Struggling? She's been playing you this whole time, Mark. She's using you to get everything she wants, and you can't even see it." Emily wasn't just manipulating Mark. She was manipulating everyone, including me. Every time I tried to get close to him, she found a way to wedge herself between us. I couldn't even get a moment alone with Mark without Emily barging in, pretending like she was the one who needed him most. One evening, I was talking to Mark about how we needed to set some boundaries. Before I could even get the words out, Emily came running in, throwing herself into Mark's arms. "Mark, I can't do this without you. You're the only one who cares. Please don't leave me alone." I could feel my blood boiling. "Are you serious right now, Emily?" I snapped. "You're literally throwing a tantrum to get his attention. How pathetic can you get?" She pulled away from Mark, looking innocent, like she didn't know what she was doing. "I'm not throwing a tantrum, Hannah. I'm just asking for help." "You're not asking for help, you're manipulating him," I shot back, feeling a mix of anger and disbelief. He's not your personal emotional crutch, Emily. Get a grip. Mark stood there, looking between the two of us, as usual too cowardly to pick a side. Hannah, why are you making this such a big deal? She's just going through something. I couldn't even look at him. That's exactly the problem, Mark. You're so wrapped up in her drama that you don't even see what's happening to us. By now, it was clear to me. Mark had already chosen. It didn't matter what I did or how hard I tried. He had picked Emily over me, and he wasn't going to change his mind. Every time I confronted him about it, he'd make excuses for her. It was like I wasn't even there. One afternoon, I was sitting on the couch, waiting for Mark to come over. He texted me, telling me he was busy.
Busy?
I knew exactly what that meant. Emily had probably called him again. When he finally showed up, I couldn't hold back. Busy with her again, huh? I said, trying to keep my voice calm, but it was clear I was furious. How long are you going to keep this up, Mark? How long are you going to let her take everything from me? Mark looked guilty, but his words were cold. Hannah, I can't just leave her when she's in such a bad place. She needs me right now. Really? She needs you? I laughed bitterly. You're the one who needs to wake up, Mark. She's using you, and you can't even see it. I'm not blind, Hannah, Mark said, his tone getting defensive. But she's my family. I have to be there for her. I felt my chest tighten with frustration. Yeah, well, I'm your girlfriend, and I'm tired of being ignored while you play the hero for her. You've made your choice. I didn't even wait for him to respond. I grabbed my stuff and walked out. I'm done. I can't keep doing this. You're not the person I thought you were. It wasn't enough that Mark had chosen Emily. Now, she was making sure I didn't have a single moment of peace. Every time I tried to move on, every time I thought I could get away from the mess she'd made, she would show up, pretending to need something from Mark. One night, I was talking to a friend when Emily came into the room, clinging to Mark. Mark, can you come with me? I don't know what I'd do without you, she said, her voice soft, needy. I couldn't take it anymore. This is ridiculous, Emily. I snapped, walking over to them. Why do you keep doing this? You're suffocating him. Emily shot me a look that was half sympathy, half disdain. You don't get it, do you, Hannah? Mark's the only one who truly cares about me. And you, she paused, shaking her head like I was the problem. You just don't understand. Understand? I hissed, my blood pressure rising. I understand perfectly, Emily. You're a master manipulator, and you've got everyone around you wrapped around your finger, including Mark. It finally hit me that there was no coming back from this. No matter what I did, Emily would always win. Mark would always choose her, and there was nothing left for me here. My heart ached, but at the same time, I knew it was time to cut my losses. One evening, I sat down with Mark, and for the first time in a long time, I didn't care about the drama. Mark, I started, my voice heavy with defeat. I'm done. I can't keep doing this. You've already made your choice. He stared at me, his expression unreadable. What do you mean, done? You can't just walk away from this. I'm not walking away from you, I said, my voice breaking. I'm walking away from this whole mess. You and Emily can have each other. I'm done fighting for something that isn't mine to begin with. Mark reached out to me, but I stepped back, shaking my head.
No, Mark.
I'm not your second choice anymore. You and Emily, you both deserve each other. I'm leaving. The next morning, I packed my things and walked out. I couldn't stay in that house any longer, watching them tear everything apart. I had spent so long holding on to something that wasn't real, but now I was free. The last thing I did before leaving was text Mark. I hope you realize what you've lost, but at this point, I don't even care anymore.
Goodbye.
I didn't wait for a reply. I wasn't interested in what he had to say anymore. I was finally free from the lies, the drama, and the toxic mess Emily and Mark had created. I was gone, out of their lives, and Emily finally had what she wanted. She had Mark all to herself, and I'm sure she was basking in her little victory. But the thing about winning by manipulation is that it never lasts. People eventually see through the lies. And I wasn't going to sit back and let her destroy everything without consequences. I heard through mutual friends that Emily was playing the role of the perfect girlfriend now. She had stepped right into my place like she had been planning it from the beginning. Mark, being the idiot that he was, fell right into it. She's just been through so much, he would say when people asked why I was suddenly gone. I just want to be there for her.
Disgusting.
Absolutely disgusting. He hadn't even realized he had been played like a fool. But he would.
Soon.
I didn't have to do much. Emily was the kind of person who couldn't help but expose herself. Her need for attention, her constant lies, they were bound to catch up with her. And sure enough, they did. It started small. People began to notice that her stories weren't adding up. One minute, she was too traumatized to even leave the house. The next, she was posting selfies at expensive restaurants with Mark, looking like she didn't have a single worry in the world. She seems fine now. One of her old classmates commented online. Didn't she say she was too depressed to go outside last week? The cracks were forming, and I was more than happy to watch them grow. At first, Mark was oblivious. Of course, he had spent so long defending Emily that he didn't want to admit he might have been wrong. But even he wasn't blind forever. One day, a friend of mine sent me a message. You're going to love this. Mark was at a party, and someone called Emily out for faking her breakdowns. He didn't even know what to say. I smirked as I read the text. It was only a matter of time. Later, I heard that Mark confronted Emily about it. Why did you tell me you weren't eating when I literally saw you order an entire meal last night? He had asked. Emily, being the pathological liar that she was, didn't even flinch. I was just trying to put on a brave face for you, Mark. I didn't want you to worry. Oh, please. Classic Emily. But Mark was finally, starting to see the cracks in her story. It was almost laughable how long it had taken him. The moment Emily sensed that her hold on Mark was slipping, she did what she always did. She went into full panic mode. Suddenly, she wasn't just emotionally struggling. No, now she was in crisis. She started crying more. She made vague, dramatic posts online about how she was so scared of being abandoned. And of course, she started guilt-tripping Mark harder than ever. If you leave me, Mark, I don't know what will happen to me, she sobbed one night, probably hoping he'd feel too guilty to walk away. But this time, it wasn't working as well as before. Mark was hesitant. He was questioning her. He was finally realizing that maybe, just maybe, she wasn't the innocent victim she had pretended to be. And then the inevitable happened. One day, I got a text from an unknown number. When I opened it, I almost laughed out loud. Mark. Hannah, can we talk? I think I made a mistake. Oh, now he realized it? After he had humiliated me, chosen Emily over me, and treated me like I was the villain? I didn't even bother replying. But it didn't stop there. The next day, he showed up at a cafe where he knew I liked to go. He looked different. Not so confident anymore. Hannah, he said when he spotted me, his voice almost pleading. Can we talk? I sipped my coffee slowly, pretending to think.
About what?
He looked uncomfortable. I messed up, okay? I should have listened to you. I raised an eyebrow. Oh, so now you see it? Now that she's turned on you. Mark sighed, rubbing the back of his neck. I didn't know she was like that. I laughed bitterly.
No, Mark.
You did know. You just didn't care when it was happening to me. He tried again. I just thought. I cut him off, standing up. I don't care what you thought, Mark. You made your choice. Now live with it. And with that, I walked out. It didn't take long after that for Emily's entire web of lies to collapse. She had been holding on to Mark as a lifeline, but now that he was done with her, she had nothing. People started talking. The sympathy she had milked for so long dried up. Nobody wanted to hear her sob stories anymore. She's just an attention seeker, someone commented on one of her old posts. She's been lying this whole time. It was over. Emily had spent so much time pretending to be the victim that she had turned into the villain in everyone's eyes. And me? I had moved on. I wasn't looking back. I had wasted too much time being angry, too much time trying to fight battles that weren't worth it. Emily had ruined herself without me even having to lift a finger. I had won. I had walked away from the chaos, from Emily and Mark, but it didn't mean everything was over. No, the fallout from their lies and manipulation was only just beginning. They couldn't keep pretending forever, especially not after everything had exploded in their faces. Emily thought she could break me, use me to get everything she wanted, and then walk away without consequences. Well, karma doesn't let people get away with that for long. I heard from a mutual friend that Emily had started posting all these cryptic messages online. I feel so lost, no one understands me, she wrote. Sometimes I feel like I'm just a burden to everyone. I could practically feel the fake tears from across town. It made my blood boil. She was still trying to play the victim, and I wasn't going to let that go unnoticed. I sent her a message. Is this how low you've sunk? You've ruined everyone's lives, including your own, and now you want sympathy? Pathetic. She didn't respond.
Of course she didn't.
She knew I was right. After everything, I thought I could finally move on. But Mark wasn't done trying to crawl back into my life. Every now and then, I get a text from him, each one more pathetic than the last. Mark, Hannah, I really messed up. I can't stop thinking about what happened.
Can we talk?
I wanted to scream. What did he think? That I was just going to welcome him back with open arms after everything? After he had chosen Emily over me, humiliated me, and let her walk all over him? I finally gave in and met him one day. The look on his face was a mix of guilt and desperation. Hannah, I don't know what I was thinking. I should have listened to you, he said, trying to look sincere. I stared at him, so angry I could barely contain myself. You think this is about listening to me? I hissed. You ignored me when I needed you. You threw me away for her, and now you're standing here, pretending like I'm going to feel sorry for you?
Get over yourself, Mark.
You made your choice. Mark's eyes filled with regret, but I didn't care. I wasn't thinking straight, he said, almost begging. I was so blinded by everything she said.
I don't want to lose you.
I rolled my eyes. Well, too late. You already lost me. And I'm not some charity case you can come back to when things don't go your way. I'm done. I turned and walked away, leaving him standing there like the fool he was. With Mark no longer her safety net, Emily began to unravel. She had no idea how to function without him. She tried to reach out to me a couple of times, but I wasn't having it. I had nothing to say to her. One day, she sent me a message. I don't know what's happened to us, Hannah. We used to be close. You were like a sister to me. Why can't we just move on from all of this? I laughed at the message. The audacity of her. After everything she had done, she was asking for forgiveness like it was nothing. I responded, you're right about one thing. We used to be close. But you crossed a line that can't be uncrossed. I'm done with your games, Emily. You're not a victim here. You're just a liar and a manipulator, and I'm not going to keep pretending like I don't see it anymore. She never replied. Good. It seemed like Emily couldn't help herself. She kept trying to make everyone feel bad for her, but no one was buying it anymore. Everyone saw through her act, and that's when I knew the final confrontation was coming. I had been hearing rumors about her crying to anyone who would listen, claiming that I had taken everything from her. She said she was just trying to find her way, that I was the one who had broken everything. But the truth was simple. Emily was a liar who used people for her own gain. One evening, I got a message from her. Meet me at the park. We need to talk. I knew this was going to be another one of her manipulative plays, but I went anyway. When I got there, she was waiting, looking like the picture of innocence. You really want to do this, Emily? I asked, crossing my arms. After everything, you still think you have the right to talk to me? Her voice trembled. I just don't understand, Hannah. I never meant for any of this to happen. Why can't you just forgive me? I scoffed. Forgive you? For what? For destroying my life and pretending to be the victim? You used me, Emily. You used Mark. You used everyone around you. And now you want me to forgive you because you feel guilty? I didn't use anyone, she whispered, her voice cracking. I cut her off.
No.
You're not just anything. You're a manipulator, a liar, and you ruined everything. You don't deserve forgiveness. And you'll never get it from me. She stood there in silence, defeated. And in that moment, I realized I had finally won. A few days later, I received a call from one of Emily's old friends. Hey, you won't believe this, but Emily's been spreading rumors about you. She told everyone you were crazy, that you ruined everything. She said you just flipped out and walked away. I wasn't surprised. This was Emily's MO, playing the victim while throwing everyone else under the bus. But now it was too late. Everyone knew who she really was. I wasn't going to waste any more time on her. I had done everything I could to get the truth out, and now it was time to move on. I spent the next few months focusing on myself, rebuilding the life I had almost lost to their manipulation. I was finally free from the toxic mess they had dragged me into. By the time I was truly over everything, Emily and Mark had completely disappeared from my life. They were a distant memory, a chapter 1 had closed forever. I had learned the hard way that sometimes the best way to move forward is to cut toxic people out of your life completely. And that's exactly what I did.